Yo,
Yo,
hello guys,
hello
and
guys, and
welcome back.
welcome
And
back. And
tonight,
tonight,
this is
this is
Brett, and
Brett,
tonight
and
I
tonight
will be
will
with
be with
Josh, and we're
Josh, and
gonna
we're
streaming the
gonna
game
streaming the
together.
game together.
Yeah, hey,
And
how's it going? I'm excited to see the games to come. So we have a lot of good teams here lined up tonight.
yep. And tonight actually we have two matches. The first match is ING versus BPJT versus GNG. The first game is gonna be ING versus BPJT, and those two teams actually.
Actually, we kind of have a lot of stories because like ING was the champion for last season's China's mainland server, and the BPJT they were the second place for the China's mainland server. So tonight is kind of the finals for the last season. It's like the champion versus second place. It's gonna be quite interesting, and a lot of the story we can take a look at in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from both teams, we've seen pretty exceptional performances. I think both these teams only ever lost games to CNC, the reigning champions of the Asian division, obviously. And seeing both of them performing at their best, you can only hope that you're going to be able to see that replicated tonight in the match against each other.
Mm-hmm. And now let's jump into the map Bampig part. And let's see. We can see the ING actually they banned the hidden city and picked the harbor city as their attacking map. And for the BPJT, they banned the Helong Fjord and picked the harbor city too as the attacking map. And banned the kind of let's say what kind of units they banned: Chevaliers, the flamethrowers, and also the dagger axe lancers. And for BPJT, they banned the stalwarts and the halberdiers, and they picked the Metalton, and the INGs they picked the Shenji Grenadiers. Those units, I mean, like it's quite popular for this time CBL, and those units are always like go banned on the list, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It really does feel like ING have done their homework here. Yesterday, we saw CNC drop their first game of the entire tournament to BPJT with a very, very unique way of taking on the Sally Out method, where they took all those Chevaliers outside the gates and didn't really leave an answer open for CNC to really react. So really smart ban coming through for ING here.
Yep. And tonight's game actually is from the lower bracket, so this game is pretty important for both of them. If they lose the game, they have to like leave the stage and fight back in next season. And if they still win the game, they have a chance to fight back for the big finals.
Especially with the caliber of both these teams, you obviously expect both of them are going to be very, very hungry for the top four position. Whether it be first, second, third, or fourth, all these teams are going to be fighting really heavily for that. So expect fierce competition here.
Yep, and I think for both two teams, ING, BPJT, like I mentioned before, they were the champion and the runner-up for last season's China's mainland. So if they gonna like, it's got like eliminated today, and the thing is totally unacceptable for both of them because like they were the champion and the runner-up. So tonight's game, I believe, it must be pretty exciting to watch. And the map they picked, Harbor City, actually it's like one of the most popular map in CBL, and it's also like the first map in Conqueror's played history. So this map, I think everyone knows this map pretty much about this map, pretty clear about this map. So all the strategies and all the movements in this map. So yeah, let's see how they're gonna play in this map tonight.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is one of the oldest maps in the entire game, especially when it comes to the CBL format. So it's a map that you see every team just about is very well rehearsed on. Something that has been really fun, though, is that we've seen a couple of times there have been innovations on this map that we haven't seen in previous seasons. I'm not sure if they'll be able to pull something out of the hat like that, obviously, again today, but it'd be exciting to see if it does come to fruition.
Yeah. So I hope tonight we can see some like a brand new strategy in this map. Because pick a map that is the most famous or like the most familiar map for everyone. That's kind of risky because like all your strategies must be like pretty predictable for your opponents, and so you must be like inventing some new strategy and doing something new for winning the game. So I think tonight ING and the BPJT, those two kind of like the top two teams, and they must be have something really different for the game because like always will be pretty risky to play on this map.
Yeah, especially with the Chevaliers getting banned away, that was the unique strategy we saw coming out of BPJT. So when it comes down to these two teams that are very, very evenly matched, when it comes down to individual player skill, it really is going to be up to seeing who can innovate better, who can find a strategy that's going to work for them on this map that's so well rehearsed and understood.
Yeah, and for both sides, they must be done a lot of like researches on both sides, and they must know each other pretty clear. And less alone, they are like the old opponents for each other, so it must be know each other pretty clear.
Yeah,
I heard like the
sorry.
yeah, and I heard like yeah, I heard yesterday's game was pretty exciting. Yeah, how about that? I happened to watch like the yesterday's game, so yeah, Josh, could you like introduce that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a sensational series, both series actually yesterday. We had BBJT versus CNC, and in the first game there we had this Chevalier strategy that I mentioned, where it kind of took everybody by surprise when they're on the defending side, where they massed, I think it was 13 Chevaliers. They rushed outside of the gates and took the fight to CNC, using those retinues to pepper down the troops of CNC after they banned out stuff like the Loyal Guards, stuff like the Blue Halberdiers, the cost-effective units. They really did maximize the amount of value that their cavalry would get, and they completely shut them out of the game in quite a big stomp. Now, in the second game, we had CNC take the fight back to them in a more traditional style of fighting it out. And essentially, BBJT kind of made a little bit of a blunder there. They charged up a single siege tower. They got punished really heavily by the quick mobility of CNC's roster. They reacted really, really fast to 2 fakes and shut down that push. And it eventually went to the third field battle, which went the distance, with CNC just coming out on top at the end of it. Yeah, going into this series, I really would expect to see something quite fancy out of BBJT. They've shown that they obviously have a capability to think about ways to attack these maps, especially with Harp City outside of the current defined meta. So I'm hopeful to see more of that tonight.
Yeah, actually, this time I only streamed the one night for the CBL, and I still remember that game. The one game that I streamed that was ING, and back to then last week they were fighting against NOP, I believe. Yeah, and that game was also like pretty impressive. And another team that I totally like, got impressed by them was the OISU, I believe, if I remember the name correctly. They were a team from Japan, and their strategy and the gameplay is totally impressive and totally like very fun to watch because like they go together and they die together and they do everything together. And especially for like they playing at the defensive side, they just like use a really good strategy to like to defend their enemies. And those games were pretty interesting and pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, speaking on the game of ING versus NOP as well, like I'm actually kind of surprised to not see Healing Fjord come out of them more often. As we saw on the map, they were completely dominant. They had a really well-rehearsed way of attacking every single point they tried to pressure. So it's been a bit of a surprise to see them opt out of that matchup a lot of the time now.
Yeah, and very sad to say like the OICU has been like eliminated this time. So I hope that that season they could still like fight back to go even further in CBL stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how much fierce competition there's been this season around. It's not surprising to see that a lot of the good teams are having a hard time making it this far. And there's no shame in going down to some of these teams that have had absolutely exceptional performances so far.
Yeah. We're already seeing a lot of like exceptional performance on the stage. And Josh, is this is not your you have been like streaming several games this time CBL, right?
Yeah, I've been doing quite a few this time around. I think about 7 or 8 days total now. But I've had a blast doing every single day.
How did you feel like streaming the CBL as the casters and not just like playing the game? I think the feeling is kind of totally different.
Yeah, it's very different. I've actually been, in my history, I've been a strategist and a commander for quite a long time. So it kind of taps
Mhm.
into that same kind of feeling for me where I'm overlooking the game. I'm trying to understand what the enemy's movements are and things like that. So it's really reignited that kind of passion in me for seeing the ways that teams are thinking out things that you wouldn't usually see a certain approach for. It's been really, really fun to experiment with.
Yeah. You mentioned that you played as a role of like the commander or the strategist for a team, and so that would be. I think that would be pretty helpful for streaming the game, right?
Yeah, I think I spend a lot of time reflecting on the decisions that are made behind certain calls in the game, the reasoning
Mm-hmm.
behind those kind of things, and I feel like being able to bring them to context and trying to explain so that other people can understand maybe the things that are a little bit more lost in complications when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to strategy and stuff like that is a really, really fun approach to the game for me. It's where a lot of my
Yeah.
passion came through leadership roles
Yeah.
in the game. And now with commentary, I get to share a little bit of that knowledge that I have, which I love as well.
Yeah. How did that feel like as the commander or the strategist of the whole team? I think that would be must be very challenging because when when playing Conqueror's Blade daily life, I played with like 7 to 8 friends together, and our communication is totally bad because like everyone's talking, everyone's shouting, and no one listens to me. No one listens to each other. So the communication is kind of chaotic. And how did you guys do that? I'm kind of curious because like so many team members in a team, and I think the communication is kind of one of the key for winning the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a battle between trying to keep your, I guess, environment as friendly as you can, while also having a certain measure of assertiveness. They need to understand that, hey, sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
commander needs to be speaking, or sometimes the team leaders need to be speaking. They need to be heard. I think
Uh-huh.
having essentially like a set hierarchy while having respect for all your players at the same time is incredibly important when it comes to that kind of aspect. Making sure that the
Mm-hmm.
players feel heard, but making sure they also understand that sometimes it's not the time to chat or talk or be casual. Sometimes this really is the time to buckle down, be focused, and try your best to win as a team. And I feel like balancing
Mm-hmm.
that out in the communication is the biggest, hardest part of it, but incredibly rewarding when you pull it off.
Yeah. I think normally I play the role as like the vanguard for my team. I just
Mhm.
go for a kill and go to the front line and do my things. So I think that for me the rewarding time was I killed someone, I claimed some points. But for as the role as commander or the team leader, the feeling is kind of for the whole picture that you win the game and you make everyone organized, then that feeling must be pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen both sides of it, obviously. But starting off as a player myself and focusing on just trying to improve my personal skill as much as possible, it felt incredibly rewarding to see that progress kind of ramping up and becoming better and better as I went. But it's a
Yeah.
very, very different sensation when you get to build other people up and see them succeeding. I almost would say that
Uh-huh.
eclipses it for me. I really enjoy the feeling of seeing people that started playing the game under my tutelage or my mentorship that then
Uh-huh.
eventually either became as good or even surpassed me in some cases. It's awesome to see that happen. I'm really, really happy for people when they succeed in that way. And yeah, that's what
Mm-hmm.
brings me a lot of gratification and joy when it comes to that side of role.
Yeah, even though I just can't play that role in my team, I still can imagine that that feeling must be really rewarding and in a pretty different way. And
Yeah, for
for
sure.
now, it seems like all the team members are pretty ready. So they're already in the room and will be jumping into the game in a really quick way.
So going into the series, is there
Okay.
any kind of predictions you have for the outcome?
Yeah, I think ING will still knock down like a BPJT. The reason
Mhm.
is quite simple. They were the champion, and I watched
Okay.
their last games. Yeah, and their performance was pretty incredible. So yeah, I think ING will still win the game, but let's see.
So I'm going to take the opposite side here. I actually think BPJT. I think after seeing their performance against CNC, I was incredibly impressed by them. So I actually think that they
Okay.
might take it to a 2-1 victory. Would be my guess on the outcome, but I could be wrong.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely, I think if ING wins this, there's no surprises to
Uh-huh.
be had either because both teams are sensational in their own rights.
Yeah. So this game is not just about ING versus BPJT. It's also my prediction versus your prediction, right?
Yeah, it always adds an element of fun for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So now the first game is about to start on Harbor City, and the ING will be the attacking side first, and the BPJT will be the defender first.
Something fun to see coming out of ING. We haven't seen it too often. We've seen it a couple of times, like kind of sprinkled through, is the apothecary unit being brought through, the battle medics, which are always a fun unit to see how they're implemented, especially when you see a lot of heavy infantry pushes. A lot of the time they get peppered down by their mortars, and having those medics there really mitigates a lot of that damage.
Yeah, so now the first game already started, and the red side is attacker, the ING, and the blue side is defender, BPJT. So let's say we can see actually on the mini map we can say the ING they are trying so hard to push siege towers. Because like for this map, the point A is actually it's not that hard to take, especially when you like pushing siege tower in a really effective way, and you can take that point really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Usually the key to this map is to get a couple of siege towers up. Usually if you have one, it's a little bit of a trap. Very, very hard to push from. But the second you get that second siege tower to the walls, it opens up a lot more opportunity for the attacker's side.
Yeah, and from the early game, we can say ING, they just like they didn't save any of their champs and already used two of them to attack the the artilleries on the wall and also the enemies on the wall. That will be pretty helpful for pushing siege tower forward.
Yeah, it's almost a necessity. As you see, a lot of the time, the teams, when they're defending this map, will use up, if not all, then normally almost all of their artillery just to defend these walls, to stagger as much time as they can out of these siege towers. As you'll see, they'll stall out the destruction. They'll get them very close to the walls, then detonate it finally when they have the safe gap. Something we did also see that I loved out of BPJT yesterday in their matches, though, was they saw that strategy coming into place when CNC were trying to wait to kill their siege towers. And they actually chose to shoot their own siege towers to detonate it earlier to get it respawning faster so they could send another wave in, which I'd love to see.
And for now, the first wave of a siege tower pushing, I believe like one of them has already been destroyed by the defender. But it seems like the middle tower is about to mount on the wall. And very quickly, and they're still using champ to hitting enemies on the wall. Oh, that was so close, but still got like destroyed.
Yeah, really well timed there from BPJT. They're making sure they get the absolute maximum amount of time as they can out of it. As we actually see, ING chose to shoot their own siege tower, as I just mentioned moments ago. Seems like they took a little bit of inspiration then from BPJT's strategy yesterday.
And now we can say the main gate has been breached, and the ING players, two of them already inside of the city and try to get to the wall. And let's say, okay, now they just retreated from the internal city, get back to the outside. And I believe they will be waiting for the next round of siege tower push.
Yep, and it almost seems like BPJT might be expecting a little bit of a cav push coming in eventually, because they are positioning quite a few of those Madao on the staircase. Now, usually the reason why teams keep them there is so that they can quickly react to people coming through either that main gate or the side gate and shut it down ASAP. So, interesting to see if ING is essentially going to fall into that trap, or if BPJT are going to get caught off guard by a heavy infantry push on this first point.
Yeah, for now, the point A is still pretty safe for the defender. They are strongly holding their point, and the attacker ING trying to push that siege tower, the second wave siege tower push.
Yeah, I actually feel like BPJT might be letting this middle siege tower actually mount as well, as they're not really shooting it down at all, whereas the ones on the left and right hand sides have been lowered quite a bit.
Yeah, it's already on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's near to burn down. Okay, now it's destroyed. And it seems like the middle tower has some chance, has a chance to mount on the wall. But BPJT's players still around their point A.
It looks very standard of a game so far for what we come to expect out of this map. A lot of the times they will let this middle siege tower mount, as it is the one that basically gives the least amount of risk to actually let it mount. That way they can also focus all their artillery. As you can see, they've already used 11 of them just to focus down the other two siege towers. We actually see a bit of a push here coming in from the left-hand side as well. It looks like they're going to try to opt into that side gate, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Okay, now the time is still pretty good for attackers. It goes like 8 minutes. If they can take the point in a really quickly, and because like for this map, the thing is quite easy. Only 2 points in this map. So yeah, if they can take the point A really quickly, they will still have like a really good chance to take over the final base. And it will bring a lot of trouble to the defender.
Yeah, that's it. Usually you want about 5 minutes to attack this A point, and the fact that they're going to be able to reach that A point, it seems like a little bit earlier before that, does bode well for them. The other side of the things, though, is that they do still only have that one siege tower, so if this attack does fail on the lower ground, it's going to be a little bit tricky to get the other siege tower mounted to make sure they can mount a proper attack on it.
Okay, now we can see the ING actually they didn't go for the supply point. Okay, now they turn around and just go for the siege, so to the supply point. Because like we know in this map, this supply point is pretty important because like it can make sure that you have at least one supply point in the internal city. You don't have to like go far to get back to have some reinforcements for your team, and for this supply point is pretty important.
Yeah, and some great Falconetti play coming through, shutting down that push, really slowing it down now as you see a few ballistas being set up. They're going to try to pick off those Falconetti as they are the most important unit there to actually shut down and make sure that they can get this push going without suffering too much damage coming through.
Yeah, it's just like they were taking over. They have already like taken over the point A, but it seems like the defender get back to point A and stop their capturing the point.
Yeah, something else to note that I actually didn't actually spot before is they've actually brought out a unit of Vassal Longbowmen. Now, we've seen that unit pop up a little bit more often now, which we haven't seen in a long time, just due to being able to pick off the retinues of those Chevaliers, but them being vacant here, it's a little bit of a mystery why they would bring them on this map. I guess the only other reason would usually be to try to outrange those Falconetti and use their Arc of Fire to try to punish that unit.
Yes, for now it seems like the situation is not that good for the attacker. They got stuck here, and they cannot get close to the supply point, and also the point A is still safe for now. And the defenders already like set up some mortars on the wall and attack the enemies inside of the city.
And like we mentioned earlier as well, it really does feel like they were trying to essentially lull BPJT into an attack here. But having those Modal already ready to go has really shut down this cab, as you can see them being trapped in the main gate, not really able to do much to help their team that's trying to push the supply as we speak.
And for now, seems like the attacker has been besieged by the defender here. And the attackers, they're like the backup seems like it got stuck by the defender around the main gate, and they cannot get in. So for the internal city, seems like the defender totally outnumbered the attackers.
Yeah, being able to catch that cav in the gatehouse and really stop them from coming through allowed the cav of BPJT, the Hussars that we saw there, to do a tremendous amount of damage, especially mentioning that there's no forward bracket to really brace and stop that Hussar charge coming through. It seems like they've done great effect with the counterattack from the defender's side.
Okay, now the defenders are leading 100 units in the game, and it seems like this wave attack is successfully nailed down by the defender. So the attacker have to retreat from the internal city, and the time is only 4 minutes left.
And like we mentioned before, it's going to be a little bit tricky though coming up this single siege tower. We're going to see BPJT move into position to really punish this. A big trap could come through here though, as we see a lot of units moving into this line of fire.
Yeah.
But a little bit of a blunder there from ING. They've actually missed almost a full volley of their Shenji Grenadiers now, knowing there's only usually 2 of those volleys that actually will do a lot of damage. Shutting down one of them with the mobility that BPJT basically have there has really limited the options of ING on this push without restocking.
And now the ING have to like speed up for taking over the point. At the time is seeking talking. It's not that enough for them. Only like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And the defenders know that they just like need to defend that point. They can win the game. So no one's leave the wall and use their modal and those really tanky units as the front line and stop the enemies come on in. And the defender is still there. And now we can see on the map ING players try to approach to the supply point, but seems like still some defenders there. And so for now, the point A and the supply point are pretty safe for defender. And the time is really good for them.
Yeah, especially with this time being so depleted already, down to already the 3-minute mark, I really wouldn't be surprised if we see the rest of BPJT's members just fight holistically for this wall and just completely give the supply, apart from obviously those cavalry players.
Yeah. Or you can say those model, they are trying their best to stop the enemies to come in. And yeah, they know this is a chance, and if they can win the very first game, this could be a pretty good start for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like they're in a pretty good spot here. Being able to hold back those units, use the Retariari, as well as the Shenju Grenadiers to really shut down that siege tower, as she had huge amounts of damage by them.
Yeah, very bold gameplay. And the BPJT, we can see some of the team members led several squads of cavalries get outside of city to charge down those enemies, try to get in.
And I think it's a great option. Not only are they cutting off the resupplies, but they're also able to basically kill anybody who respawns with those white units left. If they were running double golds, they're already down to them already. So being able to be there, shut them down instantly, gives them that third death quickly.
Yeah, so now the battle is happening outside of the city, and this is like a defender is lovely to see that, because like this is so good, because like their points are now pretty safe, and the time is just around 1 minute. So yeah, we barely can see BPJT have like a greater chance to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like options are obviously very dry for them right now, but it has been a decisive victory here in the hands of BPJT. It's going to be really good for them going into the second attack.
Yeah. So the last 1 minute, and you can see on the screen is the blue team is everywhere, and only like several heroes still alive for the attackers, and for now one of them got like killed. Okay, one more got killed, and the defender is totally outside of the city. They know they have won the game, so it's time to enjoy the game now.
Yeah, that's it. As we see a forfeit coming through from ING, as a lot of them are leaving the battle now, accepting that, hey, let's get on to the next game where we can try to avenge this loss.
Yeah. So the defender, they're just waiting for the game over, and they'll like shout out to their first win in this match. So yeah, congratulations to the BPJT, the defender. They won the very first game on Harbor City, and yeah, and let's see the MVP from both sides. And the MVP from the ING was Wanguo Ladi. Sorry, I cannot say the name clearly, but this guy got 1 kill, 3 deaths, and 0 assists, and killed 48 troops in the game.
Yeah, and doing the best pretty much by far in his team. It was a really rough game, as you can see, for the side of ING. Very limited options when they only got their single siege tower up, and BPJT really smartly had a lot of modal ready, set up on the top of those staircases to stop any of the cap coming through. Really shut down a lot of the offensive options that ING had.
Yep. The BPJT, quite good at their gameplay and very smart. And let's say their MVP first. The BPJT Zhixing is the MVP. He got 7 kills, no deaths, and 10 assists. And 129 troops got killed in the game. This is like the monster KDA. It's so good in CBL stage, especially when facing against a good team like ING, and this guy still have this kind of crazy number.
Yeah, especially like exactly as you said, when you're facing off against a team that we'd expect to be top four guaranteed, when you're pulling off this kind of performance, you're doing over 1100 damage when it comes to the leadership cost of the enemies. When you're already having 7 kills, 0 deaths, 10 assists, it's a massive performance from him as it's come through. You can see there that he shut down a lot of the golden cavalry coming through from ING. Really well done.
Yeah, and also actually we can see other team members are still were still performing quite good in the game from BPJT. A lot of them got over 3 kills but got no deaths and over 10 assists. That is like a pretty crazy KDA. And also this is also kind of thing that implies the BPJT they played really good in that game because for the early game, seems like I thought the ING they could have a chance to taking over the point A, and I thought the BBJT just abandoned their point, but they didn't, and they just leave make the point A. Yeah, you can take, but you just cannot go down. We still have some team members to watch it out, and so for ING that is absolutely not any really easy game for them.
Absolutely not. I mean, I feel like it really was a bit of an uphill struggle for them this game, but hopefully we'll be able to see them flip it around when it comes to them on the defense.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems like the first game, not just the BPJT won ING, also your prediction won my prediction. I think but I still think ING have a chance to fight back. So this time the same map, but they got a swap and different sides. ING will be the defender and the BPJT will be the attacker. And still on the map Harbor City.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see essentially a flip here with ING going up a game and bringing it to the third. I assumed that it would be a third match at the start. It's just going to be which side essentially takes it home.
Yeah. I can imagine BPJT must be feeling so good. It's very incredible feeling because BPJT was a runner-up for the last season. It's the China's mainland service, and ING was the champion. And this time they just kind of took the revenge and won the game. And they have make the half progress of it. And if they win this game, and they will be totally win the whole game. And that feeling must be very good.
Yeah, you can't help but feel like there must be a little bit of rivalry there, obviously being the runners-up, being so close to taking home that victory for the first place. You can tell that they're really hungry for that win over ING here.
Yeah, and I heard also in the last season's China mainland service finals, and the final were pretty intense. So it means the both teams were pretty close to each other. And this is also, I think, is bad news for ING because they were when facing an opponent that were pretty close to you. If you lost one game, the second game could be pretty difficult for them.
Especially when it comes to those close kind of contests, being down the first game is a mental hurdle for a lot of people to get over. And it's really down to who can actually keep their mental in check, who can overcome essentially the difficulties that are going to be proposed to them the next game.
Yeah.
And see if ING has a trick up their sleeve on this attack. Sorry, on this defense.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I saw the comments our audience seems pretty impressive. Pretty impressed by the KDA that the BPJT's MVP got 7 kills, no deaths, and 10 assists. A crazy number actually. Especially it reminds me of playing some traditional sports like playing basketball or football. Even though you performed pretty well in your training or when facing against your classmates or friends, you'll be playing good. But when facing against in a really high level match, and you can still play as yourself and do things really good. That is a very difficult thing to do. It's very incredible.
Yeah, when the pressure's on, you really get to see who are the real champions when they kind of push themselves through that kind of diversity and adversity and try to come out on top. And obviously, he did a sensational job of that the last game.
Yeah, I always impressed by those good teams. Even though so much pressure on their shoulder, they still can play really good, and that is amazing. And it's about your mentality and about your like how to deal with your nervousness and those things. Quite impressive.
It's something that really makes those star players is having the ability to take those nerves, take that kind of anxiety that you have going into a big match like this, and using that for your own benefit, being able to harness that energy, funnel it into focus, into determination to do well, and try to excel in the role that you're given by your team. It's a mark of a champion.
Yeah, and if you were the captain for the ING, because you play the role as the captain or the commander for the whole team, what would you say to your teammates chill down guys, and let's go for the second game. I forgot the first loss.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to remind the team that, hey, listen, we're just as likely to win the next one as we were the first one. Obviously, things went wrong. We'll figure them out as it comes later on. We don't need to worry about that now. All we got to do now is focus on the next game to come. At their own game and take them to the game matches for most teams. Any team could take a home bed. So being able to bring it to a third game really does equalize the field where both teams will have the mental reset and have to reassess, hey, are we in a good headspace to win this game or not?
Yeah. It's so for ING now it's all about move on and do their best and take a deep breath and then they can just go for the second game. I saw a very interesting comments hosts have so nice voice. I think hosts are okay. You mean both of us? Or I'll be totally jealous. I think you're mentioning about Josh.
No, I think he's talking about both of us. But yeah, I'll take the compliment regardless. Seems like
okay. Now so the second game is on the way. All members are pretty ready. They are in the room, and let's go jump into the preparation stage. Still on the map, Harbor City, and they go swept and different sides. BPJT this time be the attacker, and ING this time be the defender. So yeah, this is a very important game for ING, also BPJT. And if ING lost the game, they'll be eliminated from the stage this time. So hopefully they can fight back.
Yeah, it seems like they've got a little bit of a thought in mind here with this flamethrower pick. Usually you only see that pick for two particular areas of this map. Either fighting on top of those walls on a single siege tower, they're fantastic. As anybody who plays with flamers knows, they can shut down a corridor perfectly just by themselves if they're guarded. So that's a really good option for them there. Or even in the first supply behind the A point, shooting where you can't be trebbed and making sure those flamers get the full value. It's going to be a huge carry unit, really, really important for them to actually protect this game.
Yep. Seems like my mic has some not that clear, so guys, just wait for a minute and ask our director to fix that. Okay, now the second game is on, and still on the map, Harbor City.
Yeah, and something interesting out of the Chinese mainland teams is that we've seen a lot of them using the Palace Guard, which are not a common unit in the meta currently, in the Asian division at least. You see a lot of teams like CNC not opting to bring them, instead sometimes bringing units like Berserkers and stuff like that as a substitute, but it seems like the Chinese mainland teams really do favour that Palace Guard unit as being quite strong for its cost.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting is because for CBL, we can see the players or the teams from different regions. They have totally different understanding of the meta and the gameplays, and that is also one of the biggest reasons. That's why we're so into CBL. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, especially with the inclusion of not only the Chinese mainland this server, but the previous server having the Europeans come over and take place, or the NA players even. Having SSR in this tournament was a fantastic showing from them as well. They had really close series against BOD, so they had very, very different takes on the meta, using Javelin Sergeants, which are personally not a unit that I've seen used in any competitive formula for God knows how long now, years it would even be. So it's really cool to see what kind of fresh new takes the different regions are able to take to the game.
Yeah, for this map, we just like we mentioned, pushing siege tower very important. If you cannot push that effectively and cannot make to the point A effectively, and you will lose the game in a really quick way because like it will totally stuck you outside or into internal city because like the supply point we know on this map, the supply point next to wall is one of the one of the most difficult point to take in this map.
Yeah, usually you see any kind of strategy for that is usually one where they try to get quick maneuverability, or they even, as we saw in CNC's case, send a dual blade there to cap it when you're not looking, which was very sneaky of them. I'd love to see more of that, obviously, as it's really, really fun to watch. But it looks like on the left-hand side, a little bit of a blunder from ING, as you can see that really important siege tower is mounted for the attackers. That's a huge opportunity for the attacker side, as it obviously wasn't meant to actually make it there with how much it's flaming currently.
Oh, there I go to the points now, and seems like the ING player already like left several players there, so it's not that easy. Okay, they just got a retreat, and the BPJT player is kind of wandering in the internal city and didn't take any points.
That's it. Something to keep in mind as well is that ING do have a few of their units hidden back there in the spawn location where it is protected. It'll be interesting to see if they're essentially just keeping them there as a bait for them to come through this side gate and then try to flank them with those units.
Yeah. Maybe, BPJT just want to take that as a bait, or just like take a look inside, like what's going on there and what kind of like units you put around those points, and that would be a very good information for that team.
Yeah, something that is really telling is if BPJT are able to actually scout the fact that these staircases are not at all guarded and they're guarding it instead underneath the scaffolding over there on the A supply, it's going to be quite tricky for them to hold a main gate push if that comes through. So that might be an option for BPJT on the attacker side to try to keep something in their favor.
Yep. Okay, it seems like one siege tower already like mounted on the wall. So it's a pretty good news for BPJT. They make it in a really quick way. Very good for the early stage of the game.
Yeah, as you can see, a lot of their members are actually up on top of this siege tower. I'm not quite sure why so many of them are up there this time. But usually you'll see something like a longbow player like we saw at the start up there just to make sure that he can shoot away at any kind of artillery that's already set up and just contribute to taking them down from the defender side, making sure the siege towers have an easier time making it to the wall.
Yeah. Normally, like just one siege tower go mounted, like in CBL stage, teams will just like be pretty cautious about that. They just won't rush into the point. But if there goes like two siege towers, they'll be pretty ready for getting inside for the points.
Especially because we talked about the unit of flamers, but there only being one makes it a lot harder to guard the two siege towers. If they only have the one siege tower mounted on the wall, it's quite an easy task for that unit to really carry the day and make sure that it can actually succeed. But when you're stretching it thin between two different siege towers, it gives an opportunity to BPJT on the attacker's side to really funnel their forces through and actually get onto that A point pretty uncontested. But ING are actually opting here to completely give up A, it seems like, and they're going to go defend this supply and try to fight for the final base as well.
Yep. And now the defender totally abandoned the point A, so it's kind of free gift for attackers. It's very easy to take the point. But one thing like it's kind of a little bit like surprising is that they abandoned the supply point because like it seems like no one there. Or they just like hide some units near the supply point, like use it as a bait.
Yep, and I think you'll find that they're going to really heavily invest in defending the suppliers. They've got their unit of Falconetti down there, an incredibly important carry unit for them. But you can see they've actually hidden them in a part where they're actually able to get shot by these musket players. And BPJT are known for bringing quite a few muskets usually. Having the opportunity to switch over to that unit killer on the musket hero class and throwing the bombs down there is going to be quite devastating for them. It's going to force them to get back onto that supply where it can really be hit by the artillery. Yeah,
and the BPJT now is pretty cautious, and this using the artillery to do some damage first, and then they will choose to get close to the enemies. They know there are some like ambush out there.
Yep, and a really risky thing here for ING is you can see where they're setting up their flamers, they're already getting hit by that artillery. It's really, really well played from BPJT. Obviously, they've rehearsed this spot quite a lot. As you can see, the mortars coming in like trebuchet shots, basically raining down hell upon all the units down here over ING.
Yeah, I kind of get your point. That's why you like have so many like confidence about like BPJT can win a game. Their gameplay is very solid and just step by step. They know their goals and just stick to that plan step by step. It's really good, very impressive gameplay.
Yeah, it's almost eerie how similar it is to the game that we saw between ING and NOP, where it felt like NOP were quite a good team, but just outclassed by ING. It kind of feels like we're getting that same element here. As you can see, BPJT are really bringing the pressure onto ING, forcing them to play their game, essentially.
Yeah, it's very good gameplay. And now they are still pretty like patient, because like they don't need to like take a rush or something. The time is really good for them. 9 minutes and 20 seconds is way enough for taking those points.
Yeah, especially when you see the cav already, the pounce coming out of that main guy. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to sit here and keep shelling them until eventually there's no units left there, or they're forced to resupply, at which point that cavalry, the claymores down there, the fast-moving infantry can really kind of shut down a rotation and try to take a fight to them when they're already weakened.
The ING, they found a really good spot to hide their units, so it's pretty safe for them now. The artillerists cannot attack their units.
But here it comes. Here's that rotation I was just speaking about. You can see the cav immediately respond out of the gates here. Now this is a really quick ticking time bomb for BPJT to try to punish this before they get too much healing off on that supply.
Okay, now the attacker BPJT already inside of the city, and many units have already coming. They get very close to the supply point. It seems like a very chaotic team fight gonna happen on the way. Okay, still goes some champs, and the Metalitoids from attackers keep attacking the enemies. And the BPJT seems like they change the direction, not just go for the supply point this way, and they'll choose to get to the inside of the city.
Yep, and a factor that can't be forgotten about here is we see on the side of ING those Martellitore are down to only one. They've essentially been shelled by the BPJT ones in return and almost completely eliminated now, which opens up this supply on A.
Yeah. Oh, pretty smart gameplay. Pretty smart move. They just like pretended to attack another point, but then on the way they change their direction and go back to their supply point and then make some damage and kill enemies. Oh, this is a really good move.
Yeah, and I really like the play here to shoot their claymores basically into the front lines, because obviously we know claymores to be quite tanky themselves and they pop their abilities, and they're able to hold up most of the forces of ING while the supply is actually captured over into the attacker's side.
Yeah, just like you mentioned, like BPJT forced ING to play their game and in their way. So yeah, for now the situation is kind of good for BPJT. They made a really good progression around the supply point, and also nailing down those enemies.
You know, what's super important for ING is can they recapture the momentum by getting back to that other supply, getting fresh units out, and making sure they've got a base defense set up in time, as we're going to see BPJT are going to hold no bars and try to charge straight into that final base, put the pressure on ING.
Yeah, and ING seems like it's the very first time they just like retreated to their supply point, but seems like the BPJT just directly go for the final base, and ING just like have to take a rush to their final base and to defend the points, but so many attackers already there, and their supply points I think will be taken by attackers too very soon if they want.
Yeah, it's a really dangerous game here for ING, as they've got to not only capture back the space supply, but make sure they're not throwing away too many units to do so, as they are on the underhand right now.
Yeah, and the attackers is trying to controlling the final base to controlling the situation here, and their modal is already on the position. They're waiting for the enemies to come in. It seems like they are the defenders, and the defender are the attackers. Try to take over the points. The more and more units are coming on the way from the attackers, and waved out, swept out all of the enemies on the map. And now it's totally all about red color, and the attackers spam their units everywhere.
Absolutely
Okay,
huge
congratulations. Yeah, congratulations to BPJT. They won the both two games and won this round, and they have a chance to move forward to the finals and continue that game. That's really impressive. And the MVP from BPJT is Xiao Tianshen, the little god, and got 2 kills, 0 deaths, and 11 assists in the game, and 75 troops got killed in this match. Okay, KDA seems like pretty similar to the last game, and their players gain a lot of assists and do a lot of kills, but no deaths. And MVP from ING is 万国得到浪漫. Yeah, he got 3 assists and killed 42 troops in the game.
And it really is emblematic of how this game really did win. You can see on both sides the average amount of kills or leadership consumed essentially is a lot higher on the side of BPJT, as they had a lot more of the momentum coming into this match. They forced their own objectives to happen, and you can see that they're really good at really good as working in a team, of basically securing one objective at a time and then pushing incredibly fast when they know they have the momentum on their side.
Yeah. The BPJT actually the second game is really impressive, because the gameplay and the strategy is just it's really in a really ideal way. They make their plan and do the things, and it's just show the beauty of strategies. Very good game.
Absolutely great contest between the two teams that we expected a good fight out of.
Yeah, I thought the game will be a pretty intense. We'll have a game 3. I didn't expect that BPJT could be win that game in that fast, and also seemingly that's your prediction beat my prediction. You won the prediction, right?
I think I got part of it right, where I guessed the right team would win, but I actually guessed that it would go to a third game on field as well. I'm very surprised to see that it actually was pretty much a very decisive win on both sides.
Yeah, and let's thanks to both two teams. Thanks for both teams, and ING they performed a pretty good game for us, and the BPJT have a chance to move on. And tonight we still have the second game is BZZW versus GNG. One is from the China mainland server, and one is from the Asian server. So we'll take a very short break, and 5 minutes later, me and Josh will be back for enjoying the second game with you guys. So see you guys later.
See you soon.